I didn't know my life was already over until I pressed play on a broken laptop I almost threw away. It was past midnight, the kind of silence that makes every small sound feel louder than it should, and I was sitting on the floor of my apartment surrounded by boxes I still hadn't unpacked since moving after my dad's funeral. I had been telling myself I was too busy, but the truth was I didn't want to face what was inside them because every object felt like a reminder that he was gone and that somehow, impossibly, he had left me with nothing. My sister made sure of that. She handled everything after his death, the paperwork, the lawyer, the house, the accounts, all of it, and when I finally got the courage to ask about the inheritance, she looked me straight in the eye and told me there wasn't one. She said Dad had debts I didn't know about, said everything had been liquidated to cover what he owed, said I should be grateful she handled it so I didn't have to deal with the mess. I believed her because she was my sister and because grief makes you accept things you would normally question. But something about that night felt different, like a quiet pressure building in my chest that I couldn't ignore. I was looking for an old photo, just one picture of me and Dad from before everything changed between us, before the distance, before the arguments I never got to fix. I opened a box labeled random and pushed aside old cables and notebooks until I found the laptop buried at the bottom. It was his. I hadn't seen it in years. The casing was scratched and the hinge barely held together, and there was a strip of yellowed tape on the side with his handwriting that read "for later." I stared at those two words for a long time because they didn't make sense. For later for who? For what? My fingers hovered over it before I pulled the laptop out and set it on the floor in front of me. It felt heavier than it should have, like it was holding something more than just circuits and plastic. I almost didn't try to turn it on. It seemed pointless. The battery had to be dead after all this time, and even if it worked, what was I expecting to find? Old documents. Photos. Nothing that would change anything. But that feeling in my chest wouldn't go away, so I got up, found a charger that fit after trying 3 different ones, and plugged it in. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the screen flickered, dim at first, then brighter, like it was struggling to wake up. I held my breath without realizing it. When the login screen appeared, I expected a password prompt, something to stop me, something that would turn this into another dead end. But there wasn't one. It went straight to the desktop. And that was when I noticed it. There were no icons except one. No folders. No documents. No clutter. Just a single video file sitting in the center of the screen like it had been placed there on purpose. The file name was a date. I recognized it instantly because it was burned into my memory. The day before my dad died. My throat went dry. I told myself it was nothing, that it was probably just an old recording, something random, something meaningless. But I couldn't stop staring at it. My hand moved almost on its own as I clicked the file, and for a brief second, the screen went black. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, loud and uneven, and I had this sudden urge to close the laptop and forget I ever found it. But it was too late. The video started. At first, it was just a shaky frame, like the camera had been set down in a hurry. The angle was wrong, tilted slightly, capturing part of a room I recognized immediately. It was my dad's living room. The couch, the lamp in the corner, the bookshelf with the missing panel he always said he would fix. The lighting suggested it was late, maybe evening, maybe night. There was no one in the frame for a few seconds, just the quiet hum of the room. Then I heard voices. My sister's voice. Clear. Calm. Too calm. She stepped into view, and my stomach dropped. She looked different somehow, not in appearance but in expression. There was something colder in her eyes, something deliberate. She wasn't alone. A man followed her into the frame, someone I didn't recognize, tall, wearing a dark jacket, his face partially shadowed. They weren't aware of the camera, or if they were, they didn't care. My sister crossed her arms and started speaking, her voice low but steady, like she had rehearsed what she was about to say. She talked about the will. At first, I didn't understand what I was hearing. She said it like it was a plan, like it was something already decided. She said Dad couldn't be trusted to divide things fairly, said he was too sentimental, said he would leave something to me out of guilt. The way she said my name made my skin crawl, like it was something she resented. The man asked her if she was sure, if this was necessary, and she didn't hesitate. She said yes. She said everything needed to go to her. She said she had already spoken to the lawyer. She said it was handled. My heart started racing because none of this matched what she had told me. She said there was no inheritance. She said everything was gone. But in this video, she was talking about making sure everything came to her. I leaned closer to the screen, barely breathing. The man asked, "What about me?" There was a pause, just a second, but it felt longer. My sister looked away, then back at him, and when she spoke again, her voice was sharper. She said I wouldn't be a problem. Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. It wasn't just dismissive. It was calculated. The video continued, and the conversation shifted to details I couldn't fully process at first. Legal terms. Names. Dates. It sounded like they had been planning this for a while. Then my dad's voice came from off camera, and everything in me froze. He sounded confused. Tired. He asked what was going on, why they were in his living room so late. My sister's entire demeanor changed in an instant. Her voice softened, her posture relaxed, and she turned toward him with a smile that made my stomach twist because it looked so real. She told him she was just stopping by to check on him, said the man was helping with some paperwork. My dad didn't sound convinced, but he didn't push. He never liked confrontation. He stepped into the frame, and seeing him again after all this time hit me harder than I expected. He looked older than I remembered, more fragile, but he was still him. He glanced around the room, and for a brief moment, his eyes landed near the camera. I felt a strange chill, like he knew this would be seen someday. The man spoke next, introducing himself as someone assisting with estate planning. The words sounded official, rehearsed. My dad nodded slowly, still uncertain. My sister guided him to sit down, her hand on his shoulder, gentle, almost affectionate. If I hadn't seen the earlier part of the video, I might have believed it. They started talking about the will. My sister did most of the talking, steering the conversation, interrupting when necessary, framing everything in a way that made it seem reasonable. She mentioned my name only once, briefly, and when she did, she framed it like I had already distanced myself from the family, like I wouldn't care about any inheritance. My dad frowned at that, and I could see him hesitating, but she kept going, layering explanation over explanation until he stopped questioning it. Then came the moment that made my hands start shaking. The man pulled out documents. My dad looked at them, confused, asking why this was happening now. My sister said it was just a formality, something to make things easier later, something to avoid complications. She spoke with such confidence that it felt like she was rewriting reality in real time. My dad eventually nodded, though he didn't look fully convinced. He signed. I watched him sign away everything. Every line he wrote felt like a punch to my chest. I wanted to reach through the screen and stop him, to tell him it wasn't right, to tell him I was still there, that I hadn't abandoned him the way she claimed. But all I could do was watch. After he finished, my sister's expression shifted again, just for a second, but it was enough. There was a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes, something almost triumphant. The man gathered the documents, nodded at her, and said it was done. My dad leaned back, looking exhausted. He asked if that was everything, if they were finished. My sister smiled and told him yes, that he should get some rest. She helped him stand, guiding him out of the frame. The video didn't end there. It kept recording. A few minutes passed with just the empty room, and I started to think that was it, that the video had shown me everything I needed to see. But then my sister walked back into the frame alone. Her expression had completely changed. The softness was gone. The warmth was gone. What was left was something cold and precise. She looked directly toward the camera. For a second, I thought she could see me, even though I knew that was impossible. But the way her eyes fixed in that direction made my skin prickle. She stepped closer. And then she spoke. She said that everything was finally in place, that there would be no complications, no surprises. She said she had anticipated every possibility. She said that even if I tried to challenge it, it wouldn't matter because the paperwork was airtight. My breath caught in my throat. She knew. She knew I might question it. She knew I might come looking for answers. And she had planned for that too. The video ended abruptly after that, the screen going black again. I sat there in silence, the laptop still open in front of me, my reflection faintly visible on the dark screen. My mind was racing, trying to process everything I had just seen. The grief I had been carrying for months twisted into something else, something sharper, something heavier. Anger. Betrayal. And something colder. Because this wasn't just about money. This was about being erased. My sister hadn't just taken what my dad left behind. She had rewritten the story to make it look like I was never meant to have anything in the first place. She had turned my absence into an excuse, my silence into proof of indifference. And worst of all, she had done it right in front of him. But she made one mistake. She didn't know about the laptop. She didn't know about the camera. And now I had proof. Real proof. Not just suspicions or feelings or accusations that could be dismissed or twisted. I had her words. I had her plan. I had the truth captured in a way that couldn't be denied. I closed the laptop slowly, my hands steady now in a way they hadn't been before. The fear was still there, lingering at the edges, but it was being pushed aside by something stronger. Resolve. Because for the first time since my dad died, I understood what had really happened. And more importantly, I knew what I had to do next.